Welcome to the Kate Molland channel. My podcast is now in progress. Let's tune in.
And you can see the guy salivating. You could just tell that this was their first date. Now, as I watched them both, the girl said, okay, well, I'm going to go outside for some fresh air if that's okay. And the guy says, well, okay, I'll follow you. So he goes outside and he puts his hands on her. He holds her hand without asking. You could see she was uncomfortable. He pins her up against the wall. You could see she was uncomfortable. He kisses her on the forehead by filling her ears with a lot of sweet talk, which you could obviously see. And you could see the girl inching away. So I saw right there who had the power. It was obvious who had the power. Who had the power?
The guy.
See, a lot of people said the guy had the power. I said he was a weakling. And he showed he had no power whatsoever. The girl had the power, and she was in control, and she was letting him know how far he was going to go, how far he was going to get, and this is not working. I'm looking for my way out. That's how we saw it.
Interesting, because in thinking about her body language and how that you guys could identify that she was uncomfortable, I would think that she was not the powerful person because she had not yet put it to a stop.
Okay, that is one way of looking at it. But power can be looked at in so many different ways. For example, even the scriptures talk about how the shrewd one has foreseen the calamity and they have concealed themselves. Now, some would say that was an act of cowardice or there was no power in hiding or running. But again, it would depend on how you look at it because women aren't necessarily, for some reason, women need more training in the art of no.
Yes, they do.
They need to understand that the word no is a full sentence, and they need to communicate.
Jay, I totally agree with you on that because unfortunately, and I see it from myself sometimes, I see it from my friends a lot, unfortunately, they will say no and then feel the need to explain. And I have tried, over recent history to really, when I say no, to not have somebody look at me sideways and push more data out of me when it's not data for them. And some people will think that comes across as rude, as trite, as curt. But unfortunately, I'm trying to maintain my peace and my security.
Well, you're also setting boundaries and you're establishing your value as a person.
Boundaries, yes. I didn't think about value as a person yet, but that is a very good point. But yeah, I'm establishing boundaries where it's like, you know what, I have an appointment time with a practitioner and she really tries to see everybody. And if somebody calls her because they're in pain, she wants to be able to work them in. But she works them in to the detriment of her other patients that have schedules. So, where with my boundary, I say, look, if I can't be seen by a certain time, I'm just going to forgo the appointment today.
Interesting. Now that can carry over into... Now, what you just said can carry over into a coffee shop. I was in a coffee shop the other day, and I made a special request for some toast, and she said to me, I need to look up that price, but in the meantime, can you step aside so I can take the next customer? And I said, no, I will not step aside, and the reason why I will not step aside is because there's another customer and another customer and another customer. How long is this going to go on? I said, but let me at least ask the lady in back of me if she's in a rush. I'll extend that courtesy to the one lady in back of me, and that's it. So I said to the lady in back of me, would you like to move forward? She says, no, actually, you're right. And I hope she doesn't do that to me.
Goodness gracious.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm so grateful that the person behind you had your back in that instance. And
right.
I see what the server or the hostess or waitress was trying to do, where it's like, oh, I can't answer that right now, but I have this huge volume of people, so I should probably help the people I can actually help. It's not an ER.
Exactly. Now, that's different. There you go.
It's not an ER where if I come in and I'm breathing but not bleeding, I may sit for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. If I see an ambulance coming in with lights blaring and sirens blaring and a guy dripping blood, on a gurney, well, you're going to say, okay, well, my headache can wait or my stubbed toe can wait, my flu can wait, take care of this person because this person's on their way out. So I notice also that a lot of female friends of mine tell me how they get caught up in these bad conversations when they're by themselves. They say, I'm by myself, I'm enjoying a dinner, and usually at an Indian buffet where they can stand up and walk over and get this item or that item or this item and that item, it's easy for a man to approach them and start talking. Well, have you tried that before? How is that? And then they might be kind and say, well, yeah, I've had the biryani. It's pretty good. I prefer this over the basmati. Or, well, what is your take on the butter chicken versus the chicken tikka? And the girl just keeps on engaging. Now, to the guy, that's the green light to talk to her because he saw her alone and he's there by himself. So now when she sits down, he comes over with his plate and says, do you mind if I join you? Now, the girl is saying like, well, I guess it's okay. And instead of saying, well, look, this is my me time and there's some things I got to do, some texts I got to catch up on. I don't mean to be rude. Now, why are they apologizing?
That's what I cannot stand about women. Oh, my goodness.
The guy's being rude.
I take issue, and I have coached other women in the workplace and in colleagues and other settings about this whole saying, I'm sorry, and then explaining. And too many women, too often, will apologize for something that is not their fault, not their problem, but then continue to go ahead and explain. Like even as simple as using the copier and somebody else approaches. They say, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry for what? You're using the copier. What are you sorry for? You had to use it. Oh, I'm sorry to make you wait. No, that's a hazard of just coming to the copier while you're here.
Now back to the Indian restaurant where that guy is sitting at that table where that girl did not have the nerve or the confidence to enforce her value as that man enforced his lack of value. She says to him, well, listen, I don't mean to be rude, but I'd like to finish my plate if it's okay. And then as the conversation progressed, you know what he did? He actually tried to recruit her for escort work. And she said to me, I'm curious, Jay, do I look like an escort? I said, well, if you are going to be open and courteous to a complete and total stranger, what is a recruiter going to think? You've given him the green light to solicit you for escort work.
Wow, that's the standard.
And I'm saying to myself, well, I don't want to be rude.
This goes back to your point of boundaries, where women need to have the ability and be coached into how to say no politely and not over-explain.
And to establish the fact that no is a full sentence. I do not need to say more, sir. What do you think this is? What do you think I am? Where did you get the impression that I would be remotely interested in having a conversation with you on my private time?
Just because I was nice to you doesn't mean I'm flirting?
It goes back to what kind of confidence are you giving a complete stranger to violate your boundaries and your value?
Interesting.
And it goes back to Brooklyn, one of our expressions in Brooklyn to our lady homies, because our mantra was, if you look like a victim and act like a victim and smell like a victim, you will become a victim.
Yikes.
So the whole idea is do not present yourself as a victim. When a woman presents herself strong, confident, setting boundaries, saying no without an apology, men do respect that. Men respect strong women. Every guy I've ever known, every hustler, every fox, every wolf I've ever met, when a man is put in his place, he cowers right back to his chair and looks for the next victim. So having said that, I'm going to go back to my date at Mimi's. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, please. Please tell me more.